on Allen Ginsberg's Howl. So we already went through the Ginsbergian style. We already went through the first part of the poem. One thing I want to tell you in the last class, had copied on some of the lines. One line was left out by mistake. That was this particular line. If you can see, all the other lines were there, but this line I omitted it by mistake. Who bared their brains to heaven. You know who is. They are the best minds of Allen Ginsberg's generation. Who bared their brains to heaven under the L. So these best minds of his generation, they are holding their minds totally naked under the influence of drugs, and they are now under the L. L has two references there. One is to the elevated railway system of New York, the elevated railway system of New York, and also L is another name for the God in the Hebrew Bible in Judaism. Allen Ginsberg was a Jew. So L has two references there, who bared their brains to heaven under the L and saw Mohammedan angels staggering on tenement roofs illuminated. So I told you, when these people were under the influence of drugs, they were getting all kinds of visions when they were on a high. So they also saw one vision was of Mohammedan angels. Mohammedan refers to Islam. So there are two meanings there. One, they were more they had a strong association towards the east. So that shows they are not in connection with that. It shows they are not towards Islam, as they mention Mohammedan angels. Also, there is a direct reference told to Ginsberg by Jack Kerouac about poet Philip Lamantia's celestial adventure after reading the Quran. So once the American poet Philip Lamantia, after reading the Quran, he got a kind of vision as though he was going on a celestial adventure. And this narrative was actually narrated by Jack Kerouac to Allen Ginsberg. So you have two references there. So the rest we discussed yesterday, and you can also go through the references once again that I've recorded through the video. And I go on to the next part. We stopped here in the last class, illuminating all the motionless world of time between. That when these people they go on this roller coaster ride, I told you the theme of travel is very important to the beat poets. And there's not only physical traveling, there is also mind traveling. They keep not only physical, they keep shuttling from one place to another, physically and sometimes also mentally. So what happens is they become kinetic, their mind becomes kinetic in comparison, and the concept of time becomes static. Okay, so the next line, paired solidities of halls, background green tree cemetery dawns, wine drunkenness over the rooftops, storefront burrows of tea head joy, pride, neon blinking traffic light, sun and moon and tree vibrations in the roaring winter dusks of Brooklyn, ash can rantings, and king light of mine. Now, peyote, look at this reference here. Peyote is actually a small cactus plant from which the drug or hallucinogen mescaline is produced. So it is another kind of drug under the influence of which people get hallucinations, all kind of hallucinations. And it is said that uh, Ginsberg spent several days and nights in Europe experimenting with this drug, and because of which he got hallucinations. So that is what is actually mentioned here. Peyote solidities. Solidities means something giving a firm sense of structure. So his vision, his vision was actually, what do you say? It was rooted in these drugs. He got all his visions after he even there's another drug that they have taken. It is called Benzedrine. Benzedrine. See, it is mentioned here, Benzedrine, and it is after having this drug, that they could write a lot. Just like Kubla Khan was written after uh, Coleridge's, what was it? Coleridge, yeah, after Coleridge took opium. Samuel Taylor Coleridge took opium. Similarly, the poem Kaddish was written by Allen Ginsberg after he consumed this drug called Benzedrine that gave him, they gave these beat poets a kind of prolific output. They could write a lot, without any kind of inhibition. So in another words, he's saying that these kinds of drugs is what gave them a structure. That is the solidity mentioned here. Paired solidity of drugs, paired solidity of halls, backyard green tree symmetry dawns. So you see that civilization is contrasted. I told you that juxtaposition is a very important motif with the beat poets. So here, civilization is juxtaposed against nature when you talk about backyard green tree and symmetry dawns. Why are they talking about symmetry dawns here? There is a reference. One of the people of their gang was a certain Bill Keck, you know, and he lived in an apartment, what you call a flat here, overlooking a cemetery. So അവിടെ നിന്നാല് പുറത്ത് cemetery കാണാം. So while they stayed in such an apartment, they had the view of the cemetery. So these kind of visual imagery is actually juxtaposed here. The green tree is juxtaposed with the cemetery drawings. Wine drunkenness, drunkenness under the influence of wine over the rooftops. We discussed yesterday that all these exploits happen on the terrace or the rooftops. Storefront boroughs. Boroughs are districts in large towns, and storefront, it's for all these districts have, a lot of stores. That kind of visual imagery, that evokes all kind of, the different kinds of imagery. There is visual, there is auditory, there is olfactory, there is tactile where you can touch, there is kinetic movement imagery, and also organic is where, you actually describe something without actually mentioning what it is, and the description actually brings to your mind that what the thing actually is. That is organic imagery. You have six main kinds of imagery, and here you find the mixture of all this imagery, evoking various imagery in your mind. Imagery is not only visual. So you have storefront borrows of tea head joyride. Tea head is a slang word for people who consume the drug marijuana. Tea head is a slang or colloquial term for people who actually consume the drug marijuana. So after consuming this drug marijuana, it is for them, it is like a joyride. Like you go to an amusement park and you're having a joyride on a roller coaster. You're having a roller coaster ride. So this under the influence of drugs, for it is for them like, after having consuming marijuana, it is like they are going on a joyride. And under the influence of drugs, you see this neon blinking traffic light, all kinds of vision, sun and moon and tree vibration. So see, sun and moon is something visual, and vibration is a tactile imagery, something that you can feel or touch. In the roaring, again you have auditory image here. Roaring winter dusts of Brooklyn, and ash can rantings. You rant, you complain over ash can. The ash from your cigarette. You dispose it in the ash can and you rant or you complain. Why are these people complaining? The beat poets, they were generally dissatisfied. And so they are complaining over the repression, over the dissatisfaction with the mainstream society and the American government. And look at this. Now I'll ask you what the figure of speech is that you definitely, it's alliteration. You have lots of alliteration here. King, kind, king, light of mind. The phrase kind, king, light of mind is actually inspired by a line from Jack Kerouac's Mexico City Blues poem written between 1954 and 1957. So you know, king, they feel like the, I told you this is a very male centric poem where they feel kind of their hyper masculinity is put out for show. And they feel light of mind. The one, the I told you this, there is uh, this poem is generally associated with speed. And so you know that the mind travels, there is mind travel with lightning speed. And also under the influence of drugs they feel light of mind, their mind feels light. So that is a reference over there. Who chain themselves to subways for the endless ride from Battery to Holy Bronx on Benzedrine until the noise of wheels and children brought them down, shuddering, mouth-racked, and battered bleak of brain, all drained of brilliance in the drear light of Zoo. Now, these people, look at this reference, who chain themselves, this is a subway line, Battery to Bronx, south to north on the subway line. So these people are going on a train. That is one reference. And metaphorically also, as they're traveling from place to place, it is also a journey for them. And also the mind travel is like a metaphoric journey. And it's like they're literally going on the subway line also from Battery to Bronx. They're traveling from on the subway train from Battery to Bronx. But also it is like a metaphoric journey also for them. And that endless ride from Battery to Holy Bronx. And please note the word holy. One thing I want to tell you is that this, though their poem is entirely filled with a bohemian lifestyle, a pleasure seeking lifestyle, with drugs, with sex, with violence, you notice the language of religion throughout the narrative. So they try to define or give religion a new meaning. The traditional meaning of religion is deconstructed. So that you from now onwards note, or even before the previous section that we did, we had the connection to heaven, we had the reference to Mohammedan angels, we had angel-headed hipsters. Please note the reference to religion again and again, and as they try to give religion a new meaning. To Holy Bronx on Benzedrine. So they're under the influence of Benzedrine. They have the feeling that they're continuously traveling and traveling also under the influence of drugs. And what happens, when you go on a roller coaster ride, I am sure most of you might have sat in the amusement park. So how does the ride finally stop? Suddenly there is a sudden stopping with the noise of wheels and the machine, this now. And how does their ride end? Their ride ends when they come to their domestic life. Suddenly when they reach, their pleasure seeking life suddenly comes to an end when they go back to their domestic life, to their wife and their children. So this endless ride from Battery to Holy Bronx on Benzedrine until the noise of wheels and children brought them down. Suddenly their pleasure ride ends when they reach back to their domestic life, and suddenly there is no more scope for intellectual talks or this kind of bohemian lifestyle. So it brought them down, shuddering, mouth racked, and battered, bleak of brain, all drained of brilliance in the drear light of Zoo. So suddenly, after all these, their endless train journey, if you would call it, on their pleasure seeking ride, and their intellectual conversations, suddenly when they reach their domestic life they have nothing to do but only basic. That is how the beat poets actually saw their domestic responsibilities. It is actually something limited to your pure instinct, devoid of any brilliance. And they could no longer make use of their brilliance. They felt that their brilliance was all drained there. Similarly, that is the predicament of women also, where they are. I recently saw a status saying that a clean kitchen is a sign of a wasted life. And quite often there's a comparison also. Women have no reading, women do not make an intellectual discussions, but how can they have these kind of this kind of reading or intellectual discussions where most of their time is spent away in cooking or cleaning or in domestic responsibilities. So the same kind of reference is made there. When these kind of domestic responsibilities come, they are drained of all brilliance in the drear light of zoo. So that ride subway also, it stops at a place where there's a zoo. And also metaphorically they're saying that once we come back to our domestic responsibilities, it is like a kind of zoo life. For example, I told you, I don't know if I told you or one of the other classes, what happens in this pandemic. During the lockdown, all of us were caged actually in our own homes. And it is also like what Edward Albee would say, a kind of zoo story. What is the difference when we are locked in our homes between us and animals? Our basic functions are limited to, our life is actually limited to our basic functions. We only eat, we only go to the bathroom to relieve ourselves. So it becomes a kind of very life is reduced to its rawest form. So they also say that once we go back to our domestic responsibilities, it becomes a kind of zoo story. Who sank all night in submarine light. The submarine light, why submarine light is a kind of red light. That is one reference. And also submarine, for interestingly, submarine lights are also called Yehudi lights. Submarine lights are also called Yehudi lights. Yehudi means belonging to Judaism or a Jew. So, and I told you already, Allen Ginsberg also was a Jew. So they sank all night in submarine light of big forts, floated out and sat through the stale beer afternoon in desolate fugazis, listening to the crack of doom on the hydrogen jukebox. So they sat all night in submarine light, in that faded light of Big Forts. Big Forts is an eatery. Like you have McDonald's and KFC, etc. That was a eatery that, flourished during 1920s to 1980s in America. And, they floated out, means, under the influence of drugs and drinks, they are floating out in that restaurant. And they sat through the stale beer afternoon. They are having beer that is stale, and Fugazis is actually a bar. It's a bar, and they sit desolate in Fugazis in the bar. And they and Bigfoot's, interestingly, it was also a place where Allen Ginsberg worked. Allen Ginsberg also once worked at Bigfoot's. And this why they spend their time, or they while away their time in these the gloomy atmosphere of Big Fords, or Fugazi's bar. And they listen to the crack of doom on the hydrogen jukebox, just like why is the jukebox, something like a radio. They're listening to the sound of that, and it sounds like the crack of doom on of the sound made by the jukebox. It sounds like the crack of doom on the hydrogen. It sounds like a hydrogen bomb has gone off. So again, there is the reference to the atomic bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and the disillusionment they faced owing to that. Who talked continuously 70 hours from park to pad to bar to Bellevue to museum to the Brooklyn Bridge. These people, under the influence of benzedrine, they could talk continuously 72 hours as they moved on their travel from park to pad to bar to Bellevue. Bellevue is actually a mental hospital. Um, and I already told you some of these best minds of their generation were already in a mental asylum. So that shows in one way the physical travel, and in another way it also shows the mental travel, as they went from park to pad to bar to, from a mental asylum to museum, again from mental being mentally unsound to museum probably discussions of history, again to the Brooklyn Bridge. So again you see that there is not only physical travel there, but mind travel also. And who, the you see here again, anaphora, who lost, and these best minds of their generation were a lost battalion of Platonic conversationalists jumping down the stoops of fire escapes, of window sills, of Empire State out of the moon. So these people, these Platonic conversationalists, they, what do you mean by Platonic? Platonic means having a sexual, not sexual conversations, but asexual conversations. These, they were having a kind of intellectual conversations, and these intellectual conversation did not prove to be fruitful for them. You saw that. So that is why, because all these intellectual discussions, Platonic, asexual, political conversations, did not prove to be fruitful, that they became disillusioned, and they started resorting to all these kind of sexual exploits. So just like, it was a kind of virtual suicide where they jumped down the stoops of fire escapes, of windowsills, of Empire State, out of the moon. So it was like, they jumped. So like it was a kind of virtual suicide in protest as they jumped down the stoops of fire escapes, down window sills, and down the Empire State Building. When you reach that point, it is an exaggeration, because it is almost impossible for them to jump off the Empire State Building, and again further out of the moon. And this, so when they saw that their Platonic conversations, when their intellectual discussions were not reaching anywhere, they could not change the American establishment. They resorted to a kind of virtual suicide, resorting to drugs, resorting to alcohol, resorting to sex, and jumping off, a kind of virtual suicide. And here also, moon is also a symbol of madness or lunacy. Yakty yakking, screaming, vomiting, whispering, facts and memories and anecdotes and eyeball kicks and shocks of hospitals and jails and wards. So I told you these people were under the influence of the drug benzedrine here, and these are all the effects of benzedrine. The yakty yakking means speaking continuously. I told you they spoke to a 72 hours. There's another reference to that 72 hours. One second. Who talked? There was a lady called Ruth Goldenberg, a young Jewish woman Ginsburg knew from the San Remo bar. She said to have talked non-stop for 72 hours one time, but unfortunately ended up in Bellevue, a mental hospital. Okay, so there are two references to that 72 hours here. And these people, under the influence of drugs, particularly benzedrine, they are yakking, talking continuously, screaming, vomiting, whispering facts and memories and anecdotes, and the eyeball kicks and shocks of hospitals and jails and all. These are all the after effects of having consumed benzedrine. They had to go to the hospital, they had to go to the jail, and sometimes even they were pushed probably towards war also. Not that kind of war. They were in contrast to the external war. They were actually going through a war with themselves, a kind of inner conflict. That is a war referred to here. Whole intellects disgorged in total recall for 7 days and nights with brilliant eyes, meet for the synagogue cast on the pavement. Whole intellects disgorged. The intellects were poured onto the pavement. Sometimes teachers normally say you study, you by heart for your examinations, and then you go and vomit or pour everything on the paper. Similarly, their minds or intellects were disgorged or poured in total as they try to recall everything for 7 days and night on the here on the pavement, on the footpath. It was actually poured all their minds. What do they mean by that? Their conversation, they had their mind was poured on these pavements, means their conversations, all the things they try to recall, it was poured onto the pavement or the footpath. in total recall. They try to recall everything, all their um all the kind of complaints that they were having, and the kind of intellectual discussions they wanted to bring up. They try to recall it for 7 days and 7 nights. Again, note that seven is a magical word generally associated with religion. When you talk of seventh heaven, and that kind as idea of seven repeats again and again. 7 days and 7 nights with brilliant lights meet for the we actually poured our minds, our conversational minds onto the pavement, but this was purely meat for the synagogue. It was just, our brains being poured out pure meat, our minds in their rawest form for the synagogue. The synagogue, or the synagogue is a place of worship for the Jews. Here again, you find a religious reference. So they're saying our intellectual pourings will be pure pouring of brains or pure meat for the synagogue cast on the pavement. And these best minds of their generation, all of them vanished into different places. He says they vanished into three different places here. One who vanished into Norway, who vanished into Zen, who vanished into New Jersey. No, one thing, they vanished. Some of them, you had no trace of them. They vanished into Norway. Some of them, I already told you, they embraced Buddhism. Zen is actually a school of Buddhism that originated in China, and some of them, were when some of them went into this deep mystical experience. They sometimes leave the worldly life and then go into meditation. So some of them disappeared there, and some of them, particularly Allen Ginsberg, some of them went back to their childhood through mind travel or went back to their homes. New Jersey, as I already told you yesterday, it was the home of Allen Ginsberg. So some of them went into Norway, some went to meditate into embracing Buddhism, and some of them went on a journey to childhood, physically or metaphorically, leaving a trail of ambiguous picture postcards of Atlantic City Hall. So this Atlantic City Hall, that a hall in New Jersey, and picture postcards are generally associated with Allen Ginsberg's childhood, and his visual memory associated with those picture postcards. And why are these picture postcards ambiguous? Because even in the state of having sex and drugs, they are in a state of instinct, and childhood is also a state where you're rooted in your instinct. But in that, the only difference is when in your childhood it is innocent, and now they have lost their state of innocence. That is why now this leaves a trail of it is ambiguous. Though they are in a state of instinct, now it is an ambiguous picture postcard. Suffering eastern sweats and Tangerine bone grindings and migraines of China under junk withdrawal in Newark's bleak furnished room. Now these people I told you, they are some of them have embraced Buddhism, Zen, and when you come into a religion, what is the first thing you do? You will try to give up alcohol, and you'll try to give up drugs. So when you try to give up some kind of addiction, there will be withdrawal symbols, withdrawal symptoms. There'll be withdrawal symptoms. And some of you people who stop, so say for example somebody who's addicted to cigarette, suddenly when they try to stop smoking, they'll get migraines. So these people also, when they embraced Buddhism, they had to withdraw from all these things, alcohol, drugs, etc. So they also started suffering from withdrawal symptoms. Some of them, started suffering from sweats. Why Eastern sweats? Against the reference to Eastern Buddhism. And also Tangerine bone grindings. So some people, when if you have watched what is it movie, Udta Punjab, in that, when Alia, but she tries to keep away from drunks UK, there's a scene where she tries to grind her teeth, and she takes and eats paper. They try to they try to grind their teeth. They feel they as they feel as their bone is being, the kind of bone grinding, and then they get migraines. Again, these migraines are also affiliated migraines of China, because again the reference to Zen or Buddhism that originated in China under junk withdrawal, as they are trying to withdraw from all these junk uh, kind of drugs. They are experiencing all these kind of withdrawal symptoms in Newark's bleak furnished room. So the reference to Newark's bleak furnished room is because once Allen Ginsberg actually got a vision of Blake in this play, uh, in this room in Newark. He got a vision of William Blake in this particular bleak, dreary, or in a bleak, a room with inhospitable conditions, not very good conditions. This kind of bleak furnished room in Newark, that was the place that he got the vision of William Blake. So that is a reference there. And these people who wandered round and round at midnight in the railroad yard, wondering where to go. And these people, what did they do? They wandered out at midnight, around and round at midnight, the concept of travel again, in the railroad yard. They were wondering where to go and went, leaving no broken hearts. They left, but they did not have any broken hearts left. Why? Because these people were very what do you say, they were clear about their commitment. They said they did not give any kind of, though they had affairs, they did not give any kind of commitment to anybody. For them it was mostly just a one time affair or a one night stand, and that's why they left, leaving no committed hearts or no broken hearts. Okay, so go to the next one. I hope you're following me, all of you. Please say yes or no. Am I audible? Because it's becoming a one side. Yes. Okay, fine. And who lit cigarettes in boxcars, racketing through snow towards lonesome farms in grandfather night. And I told you, these people are traveling and traveling and traveling, and it is also mind travel. And again, they lit cigarettes in boxcars means these people traveled without tickets in freight trains. In freight trains, that is, they traveled ticketless or illegally in these freight trains. That is the reference here. Who lit cigarettes? They traveled and smoked in these boxcars are reference to freight trains, racketing through the snow towards lonesome farms in grandfather night. So they are going towards lonesome farms in grandfather night. So you see certain collocations, like Dylan Thomas uses. I told you that Allen Ginsberg was profoundly influenced by Dylan Thomas. Dylan Thomas also makes use of these kind of expressions. Happy, happy farm. Here it is grandfather night. Why these people have feel themselves to be orphans, but they feel that the night is taking care of them. Though they are going towards a lonesome farm, the night, and that is why the night is automatically taking care of them. So the night is a grandfather night. It is their guardian. Who studied Plotinus, Poe, Saint John of the Cross, telepathy, and Bob Kabbalah, because the cosmos instinctively vibrated at their feet in consensus. Now, these best minds of their generation, they studied Plotinus, a philosopher from, and they also studied Poe. The references to Alan Edgar Poe, the 19th century poet, and also Saint John of the Cross. So you see, Plotinus, there is philosophy, Poe, there is literature, and there is Saint John of the Cross, there is religion. So the poet is trying to say that these three things of Plotinus, philosophy, Poe, literature, John of the Cross, religion, and Bob Kabbalah. Bob is another name for jazz, and Kabbalah is something. It is a Jewish we call it is a Jewish discipline, uh, a kind of Jewish mysticism that is given by the name Kabbalah mysticism. And it is they have they have combined jazz and Kabbalah. So they said this kind of what is the name for that? Yeah, this kind of eclectic mysticism also, where you mix a mixture of jazz music and Jewish mysticism also. All these things came naturally to us. Not what we say, philosophy came naturally to us, literature came naturally to us, religion came naturally to this, and we could also mix music and mysticism also. Why? Because the cosmos instinctively vibrated at their feet in Kansas. Okay, some of them were situated in Kansas. Wichita, Kansas was also a hotbed of alternative thinkers and proto beats. Since some of them were situated in Kansas, Kansas was already a place where people thought alternatively. While teaching you media theory, we talked about mainstream media and alternative media. Mainstream is how the popular conception works. Alternative media is something that thinks differently, that thinks something differently, offbeat. So similarly here, Kansas was a place where people had a kind of that place itself was special because the people there had a kind of alternative thinking, and it was a place where many proto beats were the beat poet actually took root there. It actually originated there. Proto beat poetry. It had its origins there. So since that place was special for having this kind of different intellectual and alternative thinking, all these things came naturally to us. It instinctively vibrated at their feet in Kansas. We, in another way, they are saying that we could study Plotinus, we could study literature, we could study religion, we could study both music and mysticism, because all these this kind of alternative thinking came naturally to us being situated in a place called Kansas, who wandered through the streets of Idaho seeking visionary Indian angels who were visionary Indian angels. And these people only loaned it, or they loaned it means that kind. You look at that word again and again. There's a lonesome here, there's lone. They are actually proud of being alone. They're saying, in our loneliness we were actually very, they were proud, they were extremely proud of their individualism, because it is something where they stand alone and something that makes them different from the rest. Though they uh, voluntarily of their own they alienated themselves, they're actually proud of this alienation and being alone, and they're proud of the individualistic or alternative thinking that they have. So they loaned it out through the street of Idaho. Idaho is a place where you find a significant number of American and Red Indians, Native American, not our kind of Indians, but Red Indians or Native American Indians, and they went to the streets of Idaho also seeking visionary Indian angels. They went for this Native American visionaries who were actually visionary Indian angels. These people, Allen Ginsberg is trying to say, they were not trying to put on the act, or they were not fake visionaries. These people, they were actually the original native people of America, and therefore their kind of ethnicity, the kind of mysticism that they practiced, made them actually visionaries, who thought that they were only mad. These best minds of their generation, they thought that they were only mad when Baltimore gleamed in supernatural ecstasy. Sometimes, they travel so much that sometimes they found themselves in a place called Baltimore. Baltimore, one reference is, people, Baltimore is generally spoken about a dangerous place because it is crime ridden. Whoever goes there are easily exploited. So the India, once they reach there, they realize that they are mad. That is one reference. Another reference is the city of Baltimore is where Edgar Allan Poe, we already spoke about Poe, had his home with the Clems, and this is the place where Edgar Allan Poe was actually buried. And this line actually alludes to Poe, his stories, and his manic personality. Now, this is the second reference to Edgar Allan Poe. Though he was a poet of the 19th century, Allen Ginsberg found several similarities with him because Edgar Allan Poe also wrote on sex, on violence, etc. So he has many tendencies, and he also Edgar Allan Poe also had a mad or a manic personality. So you see certain similarities between Edgar Allan Poe and the Beat Poets. That is another reference to Baltimore over there. When Baltimore gleamed in supernatural ecstasy. So when they were under the on a high or under the influence of drugs or in supernatural ecstasy, Baltimore seems to gleam at that time. Who jumped in limousines with the Chinaman of Oklahoma on the impulse of winter midnight streetlight small town rain. These best minds of their generation, they also jumped in limousines with the Chinaman of Oklahoma on the impulse. A simple Chinaman from Oklahoma. Limousine is a taxi, what we call here a taxi. On the on the they just jumped into the limousine on the impulse of winter midnight. Probably they are walking in the winter midnight and suddenly they are feeling very cold, and probably to feel warm they jump into a taxi so that they can escape the cold. That is a reference there. Midnight street lights, small town rain. Again, you have visual imagery to evoke the feel of the place. It is midnight, there is street light, it is small town, and there's rain. And just another important thing I want to tell you, they're talking about the Native American Indians of Idaho over here. They're talking about the Chinaman of Oklahoma over here. They're talking about a brilliant Spaniard over here. You can see that they're talking about different ethnicities. And why are they talking about? So they're talking about, a kind of, they're trying to bring in a kind of diversity. Now, you all are aware that America has always been called the melting pot. You know, there are people who are against this assimilationist theory of America. America has always welcomed migrants, but they expect, once migrants enter into this American society, there is a common host culture that the immigrants are expected to imbibe, and then they try to make the whole society uniform. Even the immigrants are supposed to imbibe that host culture and become one with the American culture. And you know that the beat poets were against this kind of, and this is why their culture was called melting pot culture. So ഞങ്ങൾ individual attributes ഉണ്ടെങ്കിൽ we have all our individual attributes, we are supposed to melt those attributes and become whole with the American society. And put on the uniform of their culture. That is why it is called a melting pot culture. And this is why the beat poets here actually bring in different ethnicities here, whether it is the Chinaman of Oklahoma, whether it is a Spaniard, or whether it is the native Red Americans. They bring in these different kind of ethnicities to show the diversity and to protest against that mainstream melting pot culture. Who launched Hungry and Lonesome, see again Lonesome, through Houston seeking jazz or sex or soup, and followed the brilliant Spaniard to converse about America and eternity, a hopeless task, and so took ship to Africa. Now look at this reference. This is a reference purely autobiographical line to Allen Ginsberg himself. In August 1947, Ginsberg had traveled to William Burroughs' farm at New Waverly in Texas. He wanted to consummate his love for his uh, f- uh, his friend Neil Cassady. Neil Cassady was actually a close friend of Jack Kerouac, and I told you most of them were gay. And he wanted to consummate his love for Neil Cassady, and Neil Cassady actually refused the offer, but he agreed to spend one night with him. But what happens is he drinks, he gets high, and then Neil Cassady ends up with a girlfriend that he met, and he takes her back to the Brazos Hotel. And then Ginsberg becomes disillusioned. He becomes totally upset, and he actually meant to buy tickets for a trip back to New York by boat. But Ginsberg was so outraged or depressed that he ended up buying a ticket to Africa, spending 20 days there, missing out on the start of university at Columbia. So that is a reference here, who launched Hungry and Lonesome through Houston, seeking jazz or sex or soup, and followed the brilliant Spaniard to converse about America and eternity, a hopeless task, and so took ship to Africa. And also the idea about, to converse about America and eternity, the idea of, more about the place called America. These people idealize the concept of America, all the principles that were outlined in the American Declaration of Independence, the concept of democracy, liberty, but equality. But where was the American society and the American establishment actually living up to those ideals? So, to talk about America and eternity was now a hopeless task. That is a reference there. Who disappeared into the volcanoes of Mexico, leaving behind nothing but the shadow of dungarees and the lava and ash of poetry scattered in Fireplace, Chicago. Now, these best minds of his generation, some of them had disappeared into the volcanoes of Mexico. They had disappeared in Mexico. The reference is here. It is both a reference to John Hoffman, a friend of Philip LaMantia, and also Carl Solomon. So both John Hoffman and Carl Solomon, both of them had had died in Mexico. So that is why they say had disappeared in the volcanoes of Mexico. Both these beat poets, and there's also a reference to the work Under the Volcano by Malcolm Lowry. And these people, they left nothing but the shadow of dungarees, the shadow of their dress, and the lava and ash, and the lava and ash, of cigarette, scat of ash of poetry. You while sitting by the fireplace in Chicago, they had a tendency to smoke and talk about poetry. So they leave as they disappear into the volcanoes of Mexico. They leave behind nothing but the lava and ash of poetry in the fireplace in Chicago. And these best minds, they reappeared on the west coast. Now again they're coming back on the west coast. And interestingly, uh, he says that Don Hoffman disappears had died or disappeared in Mexico. But again, he says that Hoffman പോലെ തന്നെ പിന്നൊരാള്, he appears as a different character, one Geoffrey Stewart, an anarchist and a protester who he met in San Francisco in early 1955. So this John, someone just like John Hoffman is, it is like another avatar of him. He reappears as another character, as one Geoffrey Stewart. He's an anarchist and a protester, and he claims that he was investigating the FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation. That is the irony, that the Federal Bureau of Investigation is a institution that investigates, but now here a person, a bearded anarchist who's wearing just shorts is investigating the FBI. That is the irony. And he reappeared on the West Coast investigating the FBI in beards and shorts, with big pacifist eyes, sexy in their dark skin, passing out incomprehensible leaflets. So, incomprehensible means something you cannot understand. He is passing out all kinds of incomprehensible leaflets. who burned, and these best minds of their generation burned cigarette holes in their arms, protesting the narcotic tobacco haze of capitalism. Now, these people, under the tremendous influence of drugs, they take cigarette and burn holes in their own arms. That is also metaphorically a metaphoric way of saying that they were harming themselves. And they protested against the narcotic tobacco haze of capitalism. This capitalism is again, uh, analogous, or again analogous, or to put it another way, tobacco companies are analogous to capitalism. It was called the big tobacco, that if I just google the phrase the big tobacco, it refers to the major tobacco companies of the world. And there were five major tobacco companies in America, and these companies themselves were, symbolic of capitalism, because they were selling something that was injurious to others or something unhealthy. And they also sold out a lot of lies saying that smoking was actually good for health. So that in a way it is also symbolic of capitalism. The big tobacco was also symbolic of capitalism, because both were selling something that was harmful to the common public. These best minds of his generation, who distributed super communist pamphlets in Union Square, weeping and undressing, while the sirens of Los Alamos wailed them down and wailed downward, and the Island ferry also wailed. And these best minds of his generations, they distributed super communist pamphlets. Most of these people in the Beat generation, they were communists. Allen Ginsberg was a communist. He was a huge a fan of Karl Marx, which is why uh, Jack Kerouac in his On the Road also calls him Carlo Marx. That is the name he uses for Allen Ginsberg in his work On the Road. So these people, that this word also had become quite controversial during the time, super communist, because it evokes a phenomena called McCarthyism. What is McCarthyism? It is since all these people were, some of these beat poets were communist, they were always held in suspicion. The American government was against communists, and they were always, they held these beat poets with suspicion. So McCarthyism has two meanings. When the word super communist, it actually evokes this idea of McCarthyism. And what is McCarthyism? It is a practice of accusing someone of being a communist and therefore avoiding or not trusting them. That is one meaning. The second meaning is the mass pressure, harassment, or blacklisting used to pressure people to follow popular political beliefs. You know that the American um, establishment was quite authoritative, and they forced people to believe their kind of policies. So when the word super communism is used there, it is actually it is a pointer to McCarthyism. The idea that these people, because of being communists, they were always harassed, and also the American government was against these kind of beliefs, and they try to put pressure on them. And what did these people do? They were weeping and undressing, while the sirens of Los Alamos wailed them down. And the sirens, always they were, because they were doing all these kinds of unlawful activities. The siren of police always wailed them down and wailed down the wall. The wall, when he says the wall, there are two references there. One is to Wall Street, the very symbol of capitalism, the Wall Street in America. And the other reference is to the wall, the Wailing Wall, the wall remaining after the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem. Again, a reference back to Judaism. So again, you see religious references throughout this poem, side by side with violence and sex, and the stated island ferry also wailed. So everything was wailed. Everything I am telling you, the a phenomenon of McCarthyism. These people were always suspected because of their communist tendencies, who broke down crying in white gymnasium, and because they were always pursued, because they were under the influence of drugs, they finally found themselves in white gymnasiums. And what are white gymnasiums? The reference is to mental hospitals or mental asylums. They broke down crying in white gymnasiums, naked and trembling before the machinery of other skeletons. Now you know they try to find some kind of individualistic space, but again, this kind of authoritative government, they have to tremble before the machinery of other skeletons. They have to tremble before by the word machinery. They are trying to evoke a kind of, they are living in a robotic world, and they are also being programmed to uh, fall in line with this American policies and societies, who bit detectives in the neck and shrieked with delight in police cars for committing no crime but their own while cooking pedastry and intoxication. Now, who these best minds of their generation, they bit detectives in the neck. So adina രക്ഷപ്പെടാൻ വേണ്ടിയിട്ട് they bit detectives in the neck, and they screamed with delight in police cars for committing because they believe that they were just practicing their own kind of individualism, their own kind of uh, policies, and they personally believe that they have not committed any crime, but only a wild cooking pedasty. Sorry, pedasty is having a relationship with adolescent boys, and it is different from a pedophile. Uh, in that, pedophiles, they are actually having relationship with pre-adolescent boys, and when a person engages in pederasty, he is having a relationship with the adolescent boy. So that is a difference. So these people also, they believe that they are not doing anything wrong. They are having relationship with the adolescent boys. It is no, they are not pedophiles in any way, and they are getting arrested, or they are, pursued by the police again and again because of their sexual exploits, and also because of their intoxication, their exploits with drugs and alcohol. So I also feel, like having uttered this howl poem in one breath, having given out so many references. So we'll stop for the day. And all of you, please record your names in the chat box.